guess because they. G'day guys. I'm just waiting for Morgan to jump on.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
That's
Thank you so
good.
much for jumping on. I know it's a Sunday night.
Totally
So
fine. I'm down for it.
yeah, we're very appreciative here at Momentum, and we're absolutely pumped when you said yes to kind of jumping on with us. So thank you again very much.
No worries at all. I'm more than happy to help.
How did you find traveling back from the States? I know you just got back to the homeland here in Australia. You're up on the Gold Coast, right?
I'm actually in Brisbane, but I flew
Brisbane.
in and had to quarantine on the Gold Coast. So I mean, I traveled down the Gold Coast a lot, but it was all right. It wasn't too bad. I mean, flying back, the actual flight was good. It was really well.
Yeah.
Like they looked after us really well. And then when we got to the hotel quarantine, it was pretty full on, but got through that. And now, I mean, Brisbane's beautiful. Like it's
Yeah.
so good at the moment. The weather's nice. I mean, it's cold during the night and early morning, but midday it's
Yeah.
really, really nice. And it's just nice to be home with family and friends and being able to do everything and restrictions are lifted and it's really good at the moment. So hopefully it stays that
Yeah.
way.
Oh, great. How did you find the 14 days in ISO in the hotel room?
Oh, honestly, it wasn't too bad for the first week. I would say the first week I was living in my element because I was like, sweet, Netflix, Uber Eats, like
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
doing handstands, like I had everything, I was set up. And then that second week I was just like, this is hell. Like why did I even, come home? Like I seriously second guessed why I even traveled back home. But
Yeah.
it's worth it in the end. And I understand why they do it. It's just I felt like it was a little bit overkill. Like
Yeah.
I had testing on the second day. I came back results negative. So I wasn't
Mm.
sure as to why I had to stay there for another like 12 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, they're doing the right thing because it seems like
Yeah,
Australia is one of the
exactly.
least corona crazy countries in the
Yeah.
world at the moment, which is good.
Yeah, we're struggling a little bit here in Victoria with a few. We're not kind of the
Yeah. I
opposite direction.
mean, yeah, we're sort of disowning Victoria at the moment, but
Yeah,
that's
we
okay.
are a little bit. Yeah, and we feel a little bit rejected.
It's always on the news. It's like these Victorians aren't listening to
Yeah,
social distancing, and we're just up here in Queensland, like, yeah, right, okay, cool.
yeah, yeah. We want to get to the sun, and we can't. So
I know, and
yeah.
it'll be so cold down there at the moment.
Oh, it's freezing. So from sunrise to sunset, and it gets a bit
Yeah.
cold.
Oh, we at least get some warmth during the day, and the sun's nice.
Exactly, exactly. We're very
Yeah.
jealous here, but yeah. So I guess I told you a little bit about what we're doing here at Momentum, and
Yes.
we're all for basically men's health and performance. So we're trying to break down a little bit of the stigma around men's mental health and having those conversations, but also essentially, championing and challenging men to be better. Our tagline is, be a better man.
Yeah.
And we're just trying to really, support men, but also challenge them in some areas too that they may not have been challenged before. And one thing that we've been doing is every Sunday night we've been interviewing either a male or a female. So we've been going week on, week off, and just
Yeah.
we've been trying to reach out to inspiring men who our audience can kind of look up to and get that positive role models, and then inspiring women too that can kind of give us the other side of the conversation. What
Yeah.
do women want? What do women look for in men? What are some things that we're struggling in? What are some things that we're doing really well in?
Yeah.
So yeah, to kind of kickstart the interview off, I guess
Cool.
what
I'm excited.
yeah, what's been something that you've consistently looked for in men, and also on the flip side, what's kind of changed as you've gotten older that where you might
Yeah.
have looked for it when you were younger, but now you're you know probably more mature, or you kind of have more of an idea of, okay, I'm actually looking for this in men, and
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. I mean, I think when I first started dating when I was young, I just wanted someone to have fun with, like someone that had a personality, all like was just fun. Wanted to do the
yeah,
things that I did, all that sort of stuff. And I had that with past relationships, and obviously a lot of the times you fall into some sort of category of relationship, especially when you're young. You either have something that's going to last or it's not going to last. It's going to teach you something, or, you know, because there's so many faults in so many different things. You're young, you're trying to grow up, you're trying to become someone, become a
Yeah.
woman or a person or a lady, or you're trying to become a man, or, you know, sometimes it goes backwards. Sometimes guys don't mature and they don't become what they need to become years and years later. So it was sort of
Mm.
something that, for me, I always looked for someone just to have fun with, because I was
Yeah.
doing my own thing in regards to my career, all that sort of stuff. And I mean, I'm still young, but over
Mm.
time, over past relationships and stuff, I've sort of come to learn and come to look for different things. And I honestly feel like for me now, it's more about who, and like building a future with someone. It's not about the
Yeah.
now. And I've never, ever been someone in my life to ever think about anything in the future. I've always been in the moment. If it's good in the moment,
Mm.
it's good. I never think
Yeah.
about what it would be like having kids with this person, or being in a relationship, or being married to this person, until like my current relationship right now. And then thinking about those things, it really just opened up like this whole different side of relationships for me. I was sort of like, oh
Yeah.
shit, like this is what people feel like. This is that feeling of like, okay, I could spend the rest of my life with this person, kind of thing.
Mm.
And it really did come down to that maturity level of knowing or thinking about the future rather than being for that moment. Because obviously you're dating someone because your personalities align, you're personally, like, you're attracted to them physically.
Mm.
So many different things that fall into every relationship. Like, you can't have a relationship that even lasts if you don't have those things. But
Yeah.
long term, you start looking for different things and you start prioritizing different things. And I think for me, it was more like maturity, whether I want to have a future with that person, whether I can
Mm.
see myself with that person in 10, 20 years time, or
Yeah.
whether it's something that's just a bit foggy, or, you know, I don't really look forward to the future in a
Yeah.
sense. And I think it really does come down to that. If you're wanting someone long term, like, I think you do need to take into consideration what life is going to be like with them when
Mm.
things change, or things aren't going as well as they are, or you don't have the same job, or like you are doing really well, like super successful, maybe they don't like that, you know, like there's so many different things that you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
equate for. So I definitely think, I mean, my number one thing is I just matured over time and I started looking for different things in different people.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been, you know, really interesting because I mean, I've followed you for a couple of years now and
Yeah.
seen you really grow as a media, I guess a media personality, you'd call it,
Yeah. Yeah.
pretty quickly too. How's that, I guess, impacted like your life, but also, you know, how you built that relationship with, I mean, for those people who don't know, you're dating Steve Cook, who is a role model in his own right
Yeah.
for, you know, what men kind of aspire to be like. And obviously, I mean, obviously I don't know him personally, but,
Yeah.
you know, going off of his Instagram, it's very, you know, positive, you know, mindset, training, healthy, nutrition. So all these,
Yeah.
you know, really admirable traits from an outsider's point of view. And obviously you guys do a long distance relationship. You've just spent a bunch of time in America
Over there.
and
Yeah.
you're over there. And something that we found has been really common with the women that we've been interviewing is just how important communication is and how
Oh, I
important.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was literally
So
just about to bring that up. I was like,
yeah,
if he's going to ask about long distance, it's the answer is communication. Like, that is
yeah,
all it is. But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, so do you want me to touch base on that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Please
Okay.
continue. How's
Yeah.
how's that kind of developed over time, and how
Yeah.
have you guys approached? I mean, your relationship in terms of communication.
Yeah. It's actually quite funny. I don't know if like we've been so open about it, but when we first started sort of talking and seeing each other, I mean, we had no intentions of dating. Like, I
Mm.
did not go over and spend time with him to end up dating him. Like, there was no intention for me to date someone over the other side of the world. Like, that made no
Yeah,
sense to me. And I don't think he was really thinking of it either. I'm sure, I do know that like he is older than me, so he was at a stage where he did want to find someone that he wants to settle down with, but he wasn't going to force anything to happen. Anyway, so we were both in the like mindset that it was just going to be like let's hang out, see how it goes. Like, you know, might have a bit of fun and then go home kind of thing. And
Yep.
it ended up just seriously like the first time that I was there for reasons other than work, because every time I had seen him beforehand, it was work stuff with Gymshark, very professional, like it was all fine. And then the one time that I went over specifically to spend time with him and sort of hang out a bit, it was weird. It was sort of like we were dating already. And we just spent time together, like not on our phones, not doing anything like this. And sorry, not doing anything crazy. And it was just really enjoyable. It was so natural. And it sort of frightened the both of us. Well, not frightened, but it surprised us quite a bit, because we were like, oh shit, like, what are we going to do from here? Like, we really like each other. And after like 3 weeks, we were like, oh gosh, like I got to go back home. I was on my way home and I was just like, what are we doing? Like, are we dating? Like, are we just going to talk and see what happens? Like, and then on top of that, our like age gap difference, we were just like, there were so many things that weren't, you know, for our relationship that we were just we got to a point where we're like, oh, well, fuck it. And then we started sort of, I mean, we travel a lot anyway. So back and forth, we didn't really do too bad long distance wise, because the most we'd spend apart is maybe like a month. But in those times, it does get annoying waiting constantly for a date, like waiting constantly. Again, this is the whole idea of like looking forward to the future more so than actually just enjoying your day. And I think that's something that's hard with long distance, is that you can't really enjoy the ins and outs of each day when you just want to be with that person. You just want to skip friggin' 4 weeks of the year and get to wherever it is that they are, or they come here or whatever. So that's a little bit hard in that sense. But I think the communication is just so important. And I think this day and age, like, it really isn't an excuse to not have a relationship. We've got FaceTime, we've got all these things. Like, you can feel like you're actually interacting with someone just through your phone. So I think it's a very easy way of going about things. Again, it's just the communication. Like, you can't be jumping on for 5 minutes, having a shitty conversation that isn't really, you know, it's a shallow conversation, then getting off and not talking to them for the next day. It's got to be something like Steve and I both have sort of figured out our daily schedules. And when I wake up, I'll call him. We'll be on the phone for maybe like an hour, which is his midday. And then that will be our call for the day. And then we might talk back and forth for the rest of the day. But that was like our decent time, like, hi, 100% attention, nothing else going on. Talk to me kind of thing. And that happens every day, whether it be in the morning or whether it be at night or whatever, because obviously times are different, being in Australia and him being in America. There's like literally maybe like an 8-window gap, 8-hour gap, sorry, that we can sort of talk without it completely stuffing our own time schedules. Because I don't want to be getting up super early. He doesn't want to be staying up late, super late. So it was something that we were just like, okay, we need to try and work around that. And it became normal for us until I actually went over for my last trip recently. And then I got sort of stuck there for Corona, and I ended up being there for almost 5 months. And then that became my normal. And it was something that I got home here and I was like, what the fuck? Like, one, my boyfriend isn't here. 2, I'm back with my family. Like, because I live with my family in my house, but at Steve's house, it's like, it's just me and him in this big old house. So it's very different lifestyles. And I really feel currently, until I move over there, that I am living 2 lives. And the only thing that sort of makes that worth it is the communication in the relationship with Steve. Because I mean, if it wasn't going well, or if I wasn't willing to change things up or really work for it, and the same goes with him, then it makes no sense to do it. So I mean, communication is the major part of that. It's the only thing that really keeps us going when we're not together.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, my takeout from what you just said is around, like, you guys have made time for each other. It's like, no, we're planning our day, at least at your morning, his midday. That's what I'm doing, and it's in my diary. And it reminds me of this study that was conducted years ago around, they asked married couples whether love was a feeling or a choice. And the ones who answered it was a feeling had really high rates of divorce. And those that answered choice said had much lower rates of divorce. Sorry. And
it's actually really funny that you bring that up, because before I had met Steve, I had never met someone that was so about making things work. Like he is someone that even if he knows it's like the end of the road, he will try and make it work. And from what I've heard, he's done that in his past relationships. And he really knows that at the end of that relationship, they tried to make it work. It just didn't happen. And then it was like, we gave it our all. Okay, you know, let's sort of let this go. And I mean, I've somewhat been like that, somewhat haven't. My ex, like, he didn't really want to travel. I wanted to travel. It was sort of something that we mutually agreed on. And it was just, it just sort of faded out in a sense for that. But it was something that neither of us really like fought for. And then meeting Steve, he like little things like my parents are divorced and they're great friends and they have like some sort of connection there. You know, I'm sure they just love the past and they share children and whatnot. But every time Steve sees my parents mingle, because they do mingle and they've come over for dinner and he's been around and he's just like, I reckon they're still in love. Like if they just fought to, you know, get past that sticky point, they would probably still be married. And like, look, you know what? You're probably right. But people just don't want to put in that time or effort. And again, like you said, they just think once the feeling is gone, then it's just gone. People feel like they don't actually have to work to make that love last, you know? It's a friggin' full-time job. You have to put in the effort and time.
And I think too, like with how, like where society's headed and, you know, with having our mobile phones just attached to our hips, it's so easy to kind of look elsewhere. It's a lot more accessible to do the looking around and going, you know, and also a big thing that we try to practice here, you know, Blake, Genoa, my two business partners, the three of us that make up Momentum, is vulnerability and kind of showing up like, hey, if we're having shitty days, we communicate within the business and with everything that we do here, we kind of try to show up as authentically as we can ourselves. But in relationships, it's very easy to kind of go, well, we've had a bad week, you know, bad day, but like everyone else is doing so well and their relationship.
Look at this shiny bright thing over here.
I mean, we start to, it's so easy nowadays to kind of go and then you add on all the Instagram quotes around like, you know, if they don't, you know, appreciate you, like leave them, girl,
leave them.
like, you know,
leave them at the door. Bye.
It's like, no, like, you know, actual relationships take work and some days it's going to be really difficult and other days it's going to be great. And that's what you're trying to, figure it out. And that's, I guess, what we're all trying to figure out, really. So how big is that compromise piece for making it work? I can only imagine long distance, there'd be, you know, massive amounts of compromise. And then when you're together, you're like, you know, you just spent 5 months in America. I'd imagine he comes over to Australia. So that compromising piece would be huge.
Yeah, definitely. So it's actually something we've had to talk about pretty recently because when I do move over there in January, hopefully, fingers crossed, visas and stuff, I don't intend to live there forever. And it was something that I gave up my life short term to move there for him. He gives up his long term life to move back. So we are planning on doing that. That's our plan. Obviously, things don't go to plan, but that's what we're going to work for. And like I said, we're both very good with communication. We're very upfront. Like we don't want to waste each other's time. If one of us isn't in it, then we have to be upfront about that, make it work, try and push through, like whatever it is. We're obviously not, like nothing's wrong now. And I'm not sure, like you can't predict the future, but we're just two people that were sort of like, okay, we're going to let little things piss us off. No, like we're actually going to work through things, tell each other what we feel is uncomfortable. Like if Steve has something that I'm doing or saying or whatever that makes him feel uncomfortable, he tells me and I do the exact same for him. And in past relationships, I haven't done that. And it has eaten away at me in a sense that I'll have something and I won't say it because I'll be like, oh, that's just, you know, that's just me being annoying. Like that's just my insecurity or that's just this or that. And I wouldn't touch base on it. But since being with Steve, like anything that I feel that sits in my gut, you know, I'll bring it up and we just talk about it. And it's that freaking easy. It's like straight away gone. It's not a problem. Nothing's wrong. Like it's so good in that sense. So that's sort of something that we're on the same level in regards to we both want to make this work. We both want this to be our rest of our life kind of thing. So it's now just working to that point to get stronger and stronger every day in our relationship. And then obviously it's quite crazy with social media and stuff because we both work on social media, like that's our jobs. And for everyone that like you guys, I feel like everyone gets a little dose of what it's like you see obviously different people on social media, people connecting, people like we have to do it as our job as well. So not only seeing people on social media, we're interacting in real life with all different people that do similar stuff to us all the time, like, and it's something where you have to have a strong relationship in that sense. Like it has to be able to stand through, you know, the shit that some people might not have to deal with day to day. I mean, a lot of people will have to deal with that going to work, or, you know, like there's just some things that it comes down to the individuals. The individuals need to want to do it together. If there's one person for it and one person that's not, that's when that person's going to get easily distracted with those shiny little things that come in and out of their life and distract them for that time or whatever. But I just think Steve and I are on the same wavelengths, and it's good for now that works. Like we don't have to really work too much at things, but we know that in the future it will happen and we will have to do that. And it's something that we're both ready to do, because I mean, who doesn't want to find someone, you know, to spend the rest of their life with and actually be completely in love with them, the good and the bad.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny you touched on if you don't feel right in something, you just bring it up and you just communicate.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And it's funny. I think men have this weird sense of duty to not bring it up, and we've also been conditioned to kind of suppress that a little bit and just kind of, you know, man up, troop on, get over it, whatever, like toughen it up. And
it's not a man thing to be insecure about this or to, you know.
So it's I mean, that's one of the things that we're trying to break down and have more conversations around and communicate better. And I mean, we've spoken and you spoke about communication, such a big piece. Like that is something that men are not conditioned well to do. It's almost like we haven't been trained very well on how to communicate through emotions. We know how to communicate through anger, or we know how to get angry, but that's kind of our range of emotions.
Yeah. It's like one or the other. It's not like you have that whole setup.
So that ability to be able to communicate through what you're going through and actually going, oh, you know, from Steve's point of view, or as you said, from your point of view, and going, I don't feel good in this, you know, I need to be able to communicate this. But then also the other side of being able to hold space for your partner and say, I'm not going to take what you're saying personally. I just want to find out what, you know, okay, you don't feel great. I'm not going to take that personally, but like, let's talk this through.
Yes. And it's not even about, honestly, it's not even about what it is. It's just like, you might not even know what it is, but you might just have this gut feeling in your stomach, like that intuition feeling. You're like, what the fuck is this? Bring it up with your partner, and it literally goes, because you talk about it. You're like, well, this, and this. Like those, it's so important to bring those things up. And whether it's with, like, I used to get that feeling when my parents in high school, so I did gymnastics, like insane amount of hours each week, and my parents one day messaged me while I was at school on my phone, and I had just had my phone for like a year or something. It was my first phone. And it was like, hey, we need to talk after school, catch up at this place. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm done. Like I had that sick feeling in my stomach. I was like, oh, like they're gonna, I don't know what they're gonna say.
Worst case
like
scenario.
I haven't done anything. They haven't done anything, but I just felt so sick. And I literally got there and they were like, so your grades are a little bit low. They could be a bit higher. And I was just like, are you fucking serious, dude?
Yeah.
Like I've just stressed all day.
I've been stressing the whole day.
Literally. Yeah. And I'm the same with like when other people send me messages, like people that I care about, they're like, hey, I need to talk to you. I'm like, oh my gosh, like what's so bad that you can't tell me right now? And it's the same sort of feeling in the sense that that thing that lingers in your tummy, if I get that feeling with anything about Steve or just anything in life that I need to talk about, as soon as I get it out and off my chest, it's not a thing anymore. Like it's not that same feeling. It's like, okay, you sort of put a plan into action about how, you know, you're going to think about things differently next time or whatever it is. Yeah. And I'm not saying this is specific to anything, because I feel like over time, like in regards to like jealousy and all that stuff, I really worked so hard on getting those things to like a point where I just don't even, I'm not a jealous person, you know, like it's not something that really bothers me anymore, but it once was. So it was something that I've sort of had that time to really mature with and try and learn how to, you know, trust again. And I feel like a lot of people need to do that, both guys and girls, because I know for a fact that I know more guys that have jealousy and insecurity issues and things like that just within my life, and guys that I know and come across. And they project it in a different way because they don't have the confidence, or they don't have the ability to just say like, I don't like this, or this doesn't make me feel good. I don't like that feeling. It's giving me in my stomach. But instead they sort of try and joke about something that maybe they think is very serious. Like I've had a guy in the past that would, when he was upset with things, he would joke about it. And I knew straight away that if he was joking about something, it meant something to him deep down, that he felt like he needed to joke about it and have a little laugh about it for it to not sound as crazy, or not sound as controlling, or not sound as whatever. So it was sort of something that I sort of learned for that specific person. But I just feel like we shouldn't have to learn per person how they're going to express how they're feeling. We should have the confidence and ability and be brought up with this bubble of love around us that we can sort of just go, I don't like this, or this is my problem, or in the past this happened, so I feel like this. And that's something you address from then on out. And then that's what makes your relationship strong, or your friendship strong, or your connection with your mom and dad, or like all those different things. It doesn't have to be your partner. It could be anyone in your life. But yeah,
it's funny. I know I just potted the Instagram quotes, but it reminds me of this one around like, if me telling you how I feel, causes an argument, then like there's an issue there. And it's something that I had to recently kind of really face the mirror, or like address within my own relationship was, my girlfriend was just talking to me about like how she felt, and I was taking it super personally and like, reacting. And it was like, hang on. And then I read that quote and I was like, am I doing that right now? I'm like, shit, I think I am. And it was like, okay, I need
you're
to.
like, oh no.
I'm like, oh my God, that's
you
not
start
nice.
second guessing yourself, and then you're like, wait, should I react differently when she talks to me like this? Or I think there's a lot of things out there that's telling us how we should do things and how we should do these, like whatnot. But I just think if you go about it whatever way your body wants to do something or show something or whatever, do it and then learn from that. But you need to have also someone that's doing that on their side as well. If you have someone that's blank, they're not about you, they're on the cusp of not wanting to be with it, then as soon as you do that, it's just going to draw them away. And that's sort of like them, the trash taking out the trash, like that sort of thing. It's the idea of like, when you do find someone, there'll be that person that'll give it back to you. You'll both better yourselves individually as a couple. You'll move on, you'll mature, you'll do everything together, but as individuals.
Exactly right. Couldn't have said it better myself.
So we spoke obviously about communication. I mean, those that are still jumping on, we're talking around, what women are looking for in men, and how men
and stuff.
and how men show up, etc. So a key piece for me that I'm taking out of this is just how important it is to be with a partner that has shared values. So talk to me through, like, have you had those specific conversations where you're going, what are your values, and you have that conversation out, or is it more something that you just over time developed and kind of become more aligned?
It's great. I mean, I've said this to so many things already in this conversation, but before I met Steve, I never had. And I don't know if that's a maturity thing, like my level, like he obviously, again, he's older than me. He's had his fair share of girlfriends and like things that didn't work out. Like he's been through everything. He's been heartbroken. He's broken hearts, like all that sort of stuff. I've had 2 boyfriends previously. The last one, we broke up as friends and we're mutual, and the first one cheated on me as well. But it was something that like, I guess I've taken what I need to out of both relationships, but I haven't had the experience that he has. And when we first sort of sat down and spoke about like what we have as moral wise values, what we want in a partner, like the actual serious talk like that, for one, I was like, whoa, chill out. Like, I'm 24. Like, I don't need to be having this talk kind of thing. And then the more we sort of started talking about it, I was like, this is super important. Like, why have I not done this in the past? And then we spoke about, because he's very, very strong on his values and his morals and how he's gone about life, how he's been brought up. He was one of 7, like very polite. I mean, I'm polite too, but I swear quite a bit because I'm Australian. I feel like that's just a given. but things like that, little things like that you don't really think too much of, that are different. And like, it's little things that you may have to change, or you may have to adjust. You don't have to change necessarily, but you might have to adjust to make things work. And I'm not saying like he's saying don't swear, because I always swear no matter what. It's just like a habit thing. But you know, there's those things that sort of go back and forth. And we did have a sit down and talk about things. I know, like he was brought up in a Christian and Mormon family. Like they were sort of, his parents were a bit of both, and things sort of happened and he did that. And then I said, look, I haven't been brought up in that family, and there's things that he needs to understand that aren't norm for me. Like I don't go to church on Sundays. That's not a thing that I really care too much for, because it's not something I've been brought up with. But I do believe in a higher power, and I do believe in something like that. I feel like there's something there, but I just haven't dived into it enough. And then things like how he wants to bring up kids and how I want to bring up kids, like so hard, because it's Australia and America pretty much. Like the other night we were talking about having kids and letting them go and having a sleepover at their friend's house. For me, that's my whole freaking childhood. Like I would go to all my friends' houses and have sleepovers, and he's like, no way, like there's so many gross people out there, you know, I would never want anything happening to my kid because I let them stay over at their friend's house. And in my head, I didn't even think of that. I was like, why was that even your first thought? And then it was this whole idea of maybe, not that it happens more in America than in Australia, but the size of America is huge. Like you've obviously got more of those things over there. And in Australia, I guess we're a little bit behind times. Like maybe we don't see enough of it on the news, or we don't have as many big historical cases of like creeps and stuff like that. But it was just something didn't even pass over my mind, but it was the first thing he thought about, last thing I thought about. And it was just something that like, I was like, oh, you don't want our kids to have sleepovers? Like, no, that's like my whole childhood. Why? And it was something that we just went back and forth on. So again, little things like that, like it's got nothing to do with our relationship now or our present time, but it's something in the future that may be brought up, or may have to, you know, be gone over. So I think values is very important, but I think what's more important is being able to listen, understand, and then adjust. And I feel like a lot of people don't adjust. They're like, I'm me, I'm unapologetically me, I'm not changing for you. But it doesn't work like that. You have to meet in the middle.
And that's the thing, we don't see the world as it is. We see the world like through our perception of the world. So, so whilst you're like, sleepovers, like, sweet, that's awesome. Like, I did that all the time.
I was like, I used to go, like, I used to bring all, like, that's the only time I ever got candy. Like, I never got lollies other than that. And I was like, yes, I'm going to, like, Katie's house tonight. I'm going to get all this popcorn and lollies, and my parents won't even know. And, like, that was my life. And I guess for Steve, like, and being one of 7, it's very different. He didn't need sleepovers. He had friggin' 6 brothers and sisters. But me, I was like, no, get me away from my brother. Like, I need my girlfriends, kind of thing. But it was just something that was so small and so random, and I was just like, what?
And that ability, as you said, to kind of take a step back and go, okay, I'll look at it through their eyes and take their point of view. And we do get so caught up in like fact, and it's like, well, hang on, what is true, what's not?
And I mean, there must be a reason as to why he thinks that way. And I think it was he said something like, nothing good ever happens after midnight. You know, when you're a kid and you're having a sleepover, why would you stay up past midnight? Like, what's the point in doing that? And I was just sort of like, oh my gosh, but I used to pull all-nighters with my friends, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Like, but again, just funny stuff.
How because I'm an American citizen as well. My mum is from my mum's from California, so I've also grown up. So I've grown up.
Damn, I need it.
Being able to see like the American side and the Australian side, and the like completely different cultures. I think if you haven't been to America and you're like, they're just so different.
And that's the thing, like, I wouldn't say one's better or worse. Like, I wouldn't say, oh, Australia's better, they don't have anything like that. They definitely do. It's just less numbers because there's not as many people. But it is very different culture-wise. Like, within the community, what's normal, what's not. Like, I've never seen a full-on security system in a household before, and Steve's got this whole get-up, and he lives in, like, the most nicest neighborhood with like these beautiful families. And like you see like sketchy cities in Melbourne, they don't have those friggin' like setups. And I'm just like, what? Like, like literally turn it on and off before you go to bed, wake up, make sure you turn it off. Otherwise it calls the police straight away. And I'm just like, what? Like, is this normal?
Yeah. You can never be too safe, I guess, over there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I feel like the purge is a real thing.
Yeah, legit. Yeah, especially some of the stuff that's going on now over there. It's getting pretty hectic.
Yeah.
It's
a lot.
What is to kind of end? I guess a good way to end this interview would be what could the men of America take from the men of Australia, and what could the men of Australia take from the men of America? How have you been in a unique position where you've obviously dated an Australian or two Australians and an American, and also obviously been in both places now. You just spent 5 months in America. What is something off the top of your head you're like, oh, American men do this really well, Aussies lift your game, or Australian men do this really well, Americans lift your game?
I think, like, hands down, I think American men are more gentleman-like. I think they have to be. There's a lot more competition, you know. I think they're a lot more, there's a lot more gentlemen. And maybe that's just my American, like maybe because I haven't spoken to any other American men. But I feel like they just go a little bit more out of their way to get the girl kind of thing. I think in Australia, and something that American men can sort of learn, is just to give less fucks. Like I think guys in Australia just give less fucks. Like they really just, they do. Like they're just funny. Like they just don't care about, you know, what a girl thinks. And a lot of the times girls are attracted to that. They want that confidence, or they want that goofiness, or they want that sort of, in Australia, it's like the cool thing to be dating, you know, just a fun guy that's really good friends with everyone, goes out and does all these things with the boys, like all that sort of stuff. And I just don't think that's as much the case, or maybe just in Utah from the people that I know, but I don't think that's as much the case as it is in America. I think a lot of the times it's all about the girlfriend or the partner in America, and then in Australia it's like the whole family or the whole friends and everything. It's like that, you're that guy, and here it's like you're the guy wanting the girl. So I think literally be more of a gentleman and give less of a fuck. So somewhere in the middle.
Somewhere in the middle, that middle ground. That's awesome. I love that. I love that that synopsis or that comparison. That's great.
I thought it was a really good question. I never, literally never even thought about that.
Yeah. If you come up with a different answer, feel free to
I will. I'll chuck it in there.
But so another thing that we'll touch on, I guess, just before we do jump off, and I'll let you go and enjoy your Sunday night.
You're good. I'm enjoying this. This is good.
For jumping on, is, I guess, when I think of Steve Cook and I think of what women would be attracted to, I immediately go to the chiseled abs, the big biceps, and the barrel chest. And we've not spoken about that at all. We've you know, I've asked you, you know, what does he value? How's the communication? You know, and we've really spoken probably about, like, you know, what's attracted you to him and what actually drew you in. And none of it has been about his ability to bench press 225 pounds. It's always been about his character. And I think it's something that's really important to kind of remind, like, you know, myself included, but all the men that we work with and all the men listening, that the stereotypes we kind of attribute to men and what it means to be a man are often so false and not what, you know, other men should be striving to kind of aim towards, but also not what women are looking for. And you know, and you've, as I said, you've spoken about communication, trust, honesty, you know, the ability to show up fully as himself, and whatever that looks like, I think is super important, like to be authentic. And go on. Go.
You finish off. I'll jump on after.
No. So I guess, like, it's kind of, I mean, I'm going to annoy you to try to get Steve on. I've already asked you, but I'm going to annoy you to get him on.
I'll try my hardest.
I'd love to get
I'm so open to doing all these things, and he's just so busy all the time. So I'm like, come on.
Of course. No, thank you. And But I guess, yeah, like those traits that the average person scrolling through Instagram doesn't get to see are essentially what really drives those deep and meaningful connections or relationships.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to touch base on that just with Steve, like from what I guess I've learned from just being his friend through Gymshark and just knowing him as a fellow Gymshark athlete to then dating him. And I thought the exact same thing when I first met him. I was like, oh, cool, here's another guy with, a six pack, because all the Gymshark athletes are very fit. They're all fit. And I was just like, okay, here's another guy. Like, he's a bit more outspoken than the rest. Like, he's good looking, like all that sort of stuff. And he just sort of fell into that category for me of a guy that did bodybuilding and someone that values their appearance a little bit more than others. And I mean, I think everyone values their appearance to a certain degree, but I think when it oversteps that line, it gets pretty nasty for your own like mental health and stuff as well.
Definitely.
But then obviously getting to know him, it was just so much more. Like, Steve is someone that he obviously has taught himself to train to look a certain way for competitions and stuff, but he really is just a healthy person altogether. If he doesn't go to train during the day, he feels mentally foggy. Like, it's something that he does much more so for his mental health than his physical health. He's a very physically healthy person. He loves healthy competition. He loves striving and bettering himself, whether it be physical things or mental things. Like, he just loves improving, I guess. He always wants to be more and be doing better and all that sort of stuff. And that's so similar to me in a sense that I'll try something and I want to get better at it. Once I've gotten better at it, then I'm like, okay, cool, I'll try something else, get better at that. Like, it's the same sort of thing in that sense. And I think Steve has done, in regards to like social media and stuff, he's done a really good job of showing his personality and showing he's a little bit more than just a body, because I guess through YouTube and stuff. And that's why he's done so well. Like, he's been around in this industry for years and years before social media was like even a thing. Like, it's something that he's like an OG influencer and an actual influencer. He's influencing good shit. He's not out there influencing the next outfit from Boohoo or whatever it is, he's actually influencing stuff. And I love
or whatever.
Exactly. I love being around it and I love learning from him because he's so smart in so many different ways, and there's so much more to him than what he puts out on social media. And even on social media, like, people feel like they know him. So the fact that people feel like they know him, they know his personality, they know his sense of humor just from what he puts out, which is literally like 20% of his actual life. Like, that's admirable to me, because the whole 2 years that my page has been growing, I've been trying to find this level between putting out enough so people can understand what I'm like. So when they do meet me or talk to me, they know just what I'm like, my personality. They're not afraid to talk to me, or they're not afraid to sort of just come up and say hi to me on the street, but also not give people too much that I don't feel like I have anything for myself anymore. So I spent so long finding that line, and I just feel like Steve's nailed it, and he's been doing it so well for so long, and staying so like relevant in the process as well. So I think he really is like, he's that person for me, but I think he's that person for a lot of people, and he's a really good inspiration in that sense.
Absolutely. And so, Instagram influencer. What is that last bit of influence that you would love to give our audience, or do you have a last message that you'd like to
It's funny, when I do podcasts, people ask me this, and I'm just like, I don't know.
Pressure's on.
I'm such a realist. Like, my little like motto for life is just fuck it, do it. And again, I'm swearing always, but I am I'm a 3-2-1 person. Like, if I get nerves about anything, I'm just like, okay, 3-2-1, fuck it, do it. Like, anything, whether it's jumping off a cliff, like bungee jumping, or whether it's just me, like, anything, like getting nervous about talking on a stage, or doing my workshops, it's just like 3-2-1, fucking do it. Like, who cares what's gonna happen? Like, no one's going to come after me. I'm not like, if I stuff up, who cares? It's one of those things that I feel like people think so much about what if, and they don't actually do the things that they should or want to do. in the
Yeah.
process because of what could hold them back. And I'm just so, I'm someone that I don't want to be on my deathbed and be like, fuck, why didn't I do this? Or why didn't I just enjoy that moment a little bit more when I had it? Or why didn't I just, you know, little things like my girlfriend, we saw this good looking guy on the mountaintop the other day and I was like, go ask for his number. Who cares?
Yeah.
Like 3, 2, 1, fuck it. If he says no or if he just turns you down politely, like who cares? We'll never see him again. And it was one of those things that like, say that was Steve on the rock and it was me, I'd just be like I do the whole thing. I'm like 3, 2, 1, fuck it. Let's just go. Yeah. So I think
like
it's a good thing just to chuck out there and give it a go. Just count yourself down.
Yeah, 3, 2, 1, do it. That's a great way to end it. 3, 2, 1, do it. I feel like you would love Theodore Roosevelt's The Man in the Arena. Have you read that?
Oh, no, but I love reading. So
it's a very short, I think it was a speech or a poem. I think it's a speech. So type in The Man in the Arena. It's very good. Thank you so much, Morgan.
No,
that was such a great chat. Thank you.
No worries at all. I hope you have a great night. The rest of your night anyway.
Yes, you too. You too. It's actually my birthday today, so I am going back to my family. Yeah, thank you. Going back to my family
that's so exciting.
to have a drink. Yeah, so thank you.
Awesome. No worries. Well, thanks for fitting me in.
No, thank you for jumping on, and I'll save it, and people can watch it again if they've missed it or if you're jumping on late. But it'll be on Instagram. So thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much.
See you later.
Bye.